Now I've noted we've almost basically finished questions, but I noticed there's two councillors, Councillor Stewart and Councillor Darby and Member Honeck haven't asked questions, and I'm assuming you don't have any questions. So, right? So, you have a question? Okay. Last one.
Well, debate or question?
No questions, but we're going to go into the debate now.
Okay, I'll wait for the debate.
Right. Right. So. This is a debate, but it's more a contribution. I just remind people that the Mayor has left the meeting, so we cannot take amendments to the mayoral proposal today. That was for us to work through at the workshop, where we will discuss any agreed amendments for the following day, and then any scheduled amendments that some members may have that aren't discussed in the workshop obviously are for the 13th. So all we're doing today is when we do actually vote on this is actually noting in effect receiving the mayoral proposal. So, right, and when we get to that, I'm assuming everyone will allow me to effectively move it in a block of A, B, C and D as recommendations. So, and then that goes to the workshop for those new members, just so they understand that's the procedure. And then we go for the actual F&P on the 13th, and then what is finalised there then goes to the governing body 2 days later. So, Councillor Sayers, I think you're first.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just I want to bring to the officer's attention my concerns around the council's performance in the past and therefore going forward in this annual plan around the wage bill and the actual spend versus budget, Mr. Chair. So, if we approve an annual plan and we approve in that one of the greatest expenses along with the depreciation is the wage bill, I don't expect that to be blown out by, roughly about since the start of the Super City, on average, 50 million a year. And when, those are the type of overspending we can do without, and here we are trying to save money. So I just would like to highlight that an approved budget for the wage bill needs to be delivered within that envelope, not overexpended.
Okay. Well, there are no other speakers. This is very promising. Councillor Quacks, I knew you'd put your hand up straight away.
I just like to follow up on the comments that have been made by my colleague here, Councillor Sayers, around the savings that have been promised by the Mayor on the hustings around staff, and it was made probably by all the mayoral candidates. But I don't want to put that on the council, on the mayor's shoulders alone. I don't think that the mayor alone should be the one who acts as a razor gang of one on council staff. But Councillor Sayers is quite correct that the staff numbers at the amalgamation, or the cost of staff at the amalgamation, was $615 million. It's now ballooned out to $803 million, getting up close to $1 billion. And if you look at our rate take of $1.5 billion, we are now spending over 53 cents in every dollar on staff costs. And there must be some savings to be made there. And in order to help the mayor, the better local government legislation, or the changes to the legislation, now enables council, and that's us, to set the policy on staff and remuneration. So we should be assisting the mayor make these decisions, because they are hard decisions, they involve people. And so, while talking about people, I just want to remind councillors a question that I asked the other day around IT staff. We now employ 700 people on IT. 700, Councillor Lee, and you, I know you've been interested in this question. 700 people are involved in this council on IT services. And that consumes,
They still don't work.
that consumes $73 million in wages. So there are some savings to be made there, and we should help the mayor as much as possible in that respect.
73 million.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Yeah, what was the question, Councillor?
73 million.
73
Councillor
million
Quack's
in
got
wages,
it.
Councillor.
700
Thank
into-
you. So there are, I'm certain, there are savings to be made across that area of council staff, and it is up to us, through the new legislation, to help the mayor out. And so, Councillor Sayers, thank you for raising that issue. I also want to raise the issue of the CCOs, because I did mention the CCOs before when I was asking questions. But while I am reasonably comfortable as far as the levy is concerned for visitors, the visitors levy, I'm reasonably comfortable. The detail of that will be, or the devil, or the details of that are unclear. And we need to know a lot more about that, and I expect that the staff will come to us with a much better formed idea on how that will work, and to make sure that, in fact, we're not just transferring money from one group to another, because a dollar is a scarce resource for which there are many alternative uses. So if you put it on a rate for a bed, then that means there's money not being spent at a restaurant, or there's not money being spent at the local souvenir shop. So, you know, the dollar only goes around once for people, and we tend to forget that at this place from time to time. But I also, we're talking about that raising $30 million, and we're going to give that money to ATEED. Well, councillors, quite frankly, I'm not very keen on handing $30 million to ATEED. You know, I'm sorry, but the reckless spending of that organisation that we have witnessed doesn't give me any confidence that we would just hand over a cheque for $30 million, if that's the amount of money that it raises, to ATEED. Can't agree with that. You know, they had a man in London. They had a woman in.
You've got about 1 second to go, Dick. Sorry, Councillor Quack, you've got about 1 second to go, but
Oh,
just wrap
okay.
up.
Well, maybe
Yep.
somebody might move an extension of
I'll
time.
move an extension of 2
80.
minutes.
Maybe somebody will move an extension
Okay.
of time. Ms.
Moved by Councillor Newman, seconded by Councillor Stewart.
Lining up to second.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Against?
I want to hear more.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Because this is an organisation that has spent millions of dollars sending people to San Francisco, sending people to the Olympics. We had a man in London, we had a woman in San Francisco, we had another woman in Melbourne, and really, I think we would be absolutely no worse off. You'd have to prove to me that we would be worse off by cutting their budget by 75%. Because I can tell you right now that in the long-term plan, our aspirations for growth, GDP growth for Auckland, and for export growth has not been. We're not even close to what we've had in the Auckland plan, and so I don't believe that we would be any worse off by cutting their budget by 75%. And allowing people to either keep that or we use that ourselves on the projects that we agree to, not the CCO. So, look, I think there's some major savings there. I think we can cut staff costs. I think Councillor Sayers is in agreement with that. And we can certainly cut the cost of ATEED. Thank you, Mr Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Craigs. Just to clarify one thing, I think you said 52% of the, so we're quite clear, that's of the rates income. So it would only...
That's what I said.
Yeah, okay. So if it was all income, it's about 22, 23%.
I'm talking about the rates income. So every dollar that my ratepayer pays, 53 cents goes to paying staff wages.
Yep.
Quite simple.
Councillor Casey.
I think probably twice, maybe, in my years as a councillor, I've agreed with Councillor Quacks.
You're always agreeing with me.
Just about to agree for the third time on the CCOs. I've got a real nervousness around accessibility and getting, setting targets, savings targets, and seeing them implemented. I don't know how we do that. So I haven't had any comfort from staff to date. I think it's a work in progress, that's what you're telling me. But I'm a real fear. And ATEED in particular is one that I've read your emails, Dick, and I agree with them. It's about that in particular. And a recent example is that ATEED promoted Sky City for the local government conference. I have no answer to that at all. And that comes from Malcolm Alexander, the chief executive. Why would ATEED promote a private organisation and not our own council facilities? The money is then going outside of council. I don't get it. And so I'm completely in your corner on this, Dick. I think there's a lot of bad decisions that have been made recently, and we shouldn't let them continue. And how we bring them to heel, the Mayor's suggesting we do that. I don't know what the mechanism is for that. And, maybe once we work through that, it'll all be made clear. But in terms of savings, absolutely there is fat in the CCOs. And we need to be dipping our hands into that murky mixture to drag some of it out. So that was just, that was the bad bit. The good bit. And Dick won't agree with a word of this, but just want to say congratulations. It's the first time I've actually felt the Mayor's proposal is doing stuff for people who really need help in Auckland, the underclass. It's an acknowledgement that there are struggling workers, there are struggling families, and paying our staff the living wage is just a small step, and it's been a long time coming. It came to my committee, one of the very first committees of the new council. So it's been 6 years since it came there, but we'll do it now. Small step, we're not the first council in New Zealand to have done it, but we set the bar for other employers to do the same. That's what we're doing, showing some leadership. So I'm very, very grateful to that, but also reminding you that we who were there had a woman in that seat that David's in who cleans the town hall toilets on a subcontract and gets much, much less than the minimum wage. And she was crying that day. And we owe it to people like that who are working for us in our facility to make sure that they too get the living wage. So I'll be keeping on at you, David, for the next 3 years to make sure that there's a next phase to this. Right. The other thing was the homelessness. The homelessness money, it's not a lot of money, but one of the central roles of council has been, since 2004, to bring the agencies and homeless people and the government into the same room. And to have $500,000 to actually put in place a decent action plan. We had an action plan, but it was only covered Auckland city area, and that's now extinct. We need a new regional plan so that all these great ideas that people have can feed into it. So we agree on the plan together, just like the Auckland plan, and that's a good bit of work that Auckland Council can do, and I'm really, really pleased to see that we think that's an appropriate thing to be doing. And so congratulations to the Mayor for this budget. And with Dick on the CCOs, I'll be keeping a watching eye on the savings that we can get from there and hopefully making my part in that. So ask me what you think can be saved and I'll tell you.